that does not build trust with us. That is one-way ticket out if you're going to be not responsive. So, we rated that as a 12, which is a pretty high. That may not be the case with other people, but I always say if they're not getting back to you, they don't respect you, they don't trust you.
So I wanted to record a little bit of bonus content with Curtis. We just had a podcast talking about taking over his grandfather's CPA firm, so you could check that out on the YouTube channel. I'll link that at the end of this video. But he talked about a client grading matrix that he used to go through his entire client list. And then you said you also use this with your clients so that they can rate their clients or customers as well.
Yeah.
And so I asked Curtis if he would be kind enough to just go through his grading matrix with us. And he actually offered to just send it as a download that anybody that's watching this video can go access. So I appreciate that, Curtis.
Absolutely. And this was part of the evaluation process, like due diligence phase. It doesn't work with companies that don't have some kind of ongoing relationship. So either annual recurring revenue or monthly recurring revenue. I guess you could use it for project-based revenue, just depending on like after the fact, like I guess you could use it. I've just used it mainly for ongoing relationships, but
more like an after action review. Do we want to take this type of client on again?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it in that way until I'm just talking to you about it. But really, it's 8 different factors that we have found are helpful for building long-term relationship.
Okay.
So it's revenue score, and I actually have a range of revenue that's customizable based on what kind of revenue you want to take in. So mine was, if they're under $2,500 in revenue per year, it was an F grade, all the way up to 20,000+.
Okay.
Probably need to raise that.
So five scales that an ideal client would fit into.
Yeah. So it goes from A to F.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, if you use this template, it'll calculate some of these scores for you just based on where you're going.
So am I just typing in like $30,000 worth of revenue and it's going to automatically grade it?
Yes. Well, you actually have to play. So I have rolling 12 revenue as the first column here in your C. And so that's where we've looked at our monthly recurring revenue to see what that revenue score is. So the other factors real quick are the PETA factor, pain in the ass factor. Are they just a pain to work with, or are they easier to deal with? Core values alignment. So part of the podcast, we talked about our core values. Do they have want and have real connection with us? Do we trust them? Do they trust us? And this is subjective, so you'd have to make the call on this. Are they a part of a package, or are they just project-based or one-off? We rate that as a package of, if they're a part of our monthly package, then they are a higher value client. Longevity.
And that's a yes/no on that.
That's a yes/no. Yep, it's binary, so it's yes or no. We've got longevity, so we do take into account how long a client's been with us. Certainly, legacy does not mean they're always going to be a client, but it is a factor that we felt like was important.
You've got 5% for that one, so it's least half, if not a third, of most of the other factors on there.
Yeah, if they it could move them from B to A, or from C to B. Just
it won't make an F a B.
Yeah. The complexity factor again is subjective. If we felt like they're technically complex to work with,
be interesting, like you're looking for complexity.
Well, actually, good clarification point. This is complexity in a bad way.
I got you.
This is like overly complex, and sometimes
needs your attention. You can't pass it off to staff, kind of thing.
Like, especially in an advisory relationship, if they have a bunch of different entities they're dealing with and all, it's just every time you're going to have to look at 18 different spreadsheets to figure out how to advise them. It's over complex for us. That may be a positive for some, though, because you can raise prices. So I thought about it as a negative, but it could be a positive. Responsive factor, that is a huge thing with us. And I think in service-based business, if they're blowing us off, and that does not build trust with us. That is one-way ticket out if you're going to be not responsive. So we rated that as a 12, which is a pretty high. That may not be the case with other people, but I always say, if they're not getting back to you, they don't respect you, they don't trust you. I know people are busy, but if the relationship is important, they need to be responsive. So, and then values us again is a subjective factor. As we were talking about with clients, or you and I, Barrett, we're talking about if you have a long-term client you've been working with for 40 plus years, and you say, we need to start doing this, and they say yes, and it's not like a back and forth, well, what's surprise, like they value you as a practitioner. And so we wanted to put that as a factor in here as well. And we did.
I've seen that in professional services. It's kind of like they let you direct the conversation.
Yeah.
They're like, you're the professional. Tell us where to go. Tell us where we're best suited for this situation.
So that could be a guidance factor. Would be another good name for it, or they will guidable factor. So, and then we did put a subjective weight on each of those factors to determine what is most important to us. Tried to weight those based on that factor. And so at the end of the day, the overall grade is going to give you, there's a grading matrix down here that scores from A+ all the way down to F, A+, A minus. And then kind of gives you an idea of where that client is sitting. So a lot of these are subjective. I mean, longevity, what is longevity to you? I don't know. It could be you've worked with them for 3 years, or it could be that you worked with them for 18 months. It could be you worked with them 40 years. But it at least gives you a scientific way to go through, and some clients will surprise you of where they are. They may be great clients, but they're not paying you enough money. And so what I'd use this for was if there were some clients that I didn't quite have the revenue where it needed to be, but all the other factors were good, we increased prices.
Mm-hmm.
And if they stuck around, great. If not, maybe they didn't value our services enough. It just gives you especially if you're dealing with hundreds of clients, this gives you a way to easily go down and say, how do I strata these clients to be A, B, C, D? And how can we move, if they're C or D clients and they're great, how can we move them up to a B?
Yeah, I like the weighting on this, and just that you use 7 factors, not like we joked about a Pulse on wallet as your 2 factors. Because, this does show you reasonable steps forward to move somebody from a B- or a C+ to a B+ or an A- or something like that. But it's not like your revenue is weighted 60% and everything else is playing catch up here. Any one factor alone isn't going to bump somebody up 3 levels, but maybe 2 things. If we tweak these, it might bring them up to there. So that's great.
The first time I did it, I was like, okay, I'm not surprised by these handful, but there was some people that I was like, okay, this is all about price. Like all their core value alignment, everything like that, and they just need to get up to the right aligned revenue. So.
Long-term metrics in your firm, then do you take the entire list and say, okay, right now firm-wide we're at a C+, and then 2 years from now you look at it and you're like, we're at a B+ or something like that? Do you?
I haven't done that. No.
Okay.
No. I was thinking, because I think I thought about it more on a case-by-case basis of the client relationship. But that would be an interesting tool to pull. And I've done this the last 3 years. So as we've cut clients, as we didn't renew relationships, or as we've taken some on, I haven't done it this year. This is generally a summer project for me. While tax season's still kind of fresh on my mind, and I try to make notes too. In our weekly meeting, I make notes about this client did this. Usually negative, and just to be able to keep track of that thing.
Yeah, no, this is really helpful. I appreciate you sharing this with my audience. I'm doing this kind of assessment in our own firm right now, just because we have 2 partners who are looking to retire, and me and my remaining partner would not be able to just take on that entire workload.
Yes.
But I did just bottom 30% of revenue and found out like 60% of our clients are responsible for the bottom 30%. So we could cut all of them. Mm-hmm. But I'm just like, that's so clinical. That does feel like a Fortune 500 kind of decision. And there's other factors here. So I really appreciate this. So.
That's the reason they're Fortune 500.
Because they can be clinical. Because they
have been clinical.
They don't have core values.
Well, they do. They're just on the website. They don't give them out. Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, anything I can do to help, and like I said, I'll link that.
So in each column, do you look at your scale and then you give it a 1.2 or a 3.6 or something like that? Is that how this works?
So on the revenue should pull in automatically based on range as a 1 through 5. Any of the 1 through 5s will pull in what the score is. And then like on the subjectives, I do 1 through 5, 1 being the best. Yeah. And 5 being the worst. And then it'll calculate it in what the overall grade is.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Curse.
You're welcome.